Hey there, folks. It's that time of the week again, and that, of course, is time for Jungle Drums. On my own this week because of timing on my part. I'm just grinding away with the last bit of schoolwork I have for this academic year. I think there's actually only 2 more scheduled weeks. But with any luck, I'll actually have everything done this upcoming week. So yeah, I'm just kind of, doing so many things, spinning so many plates at once. So basically just had to try to fit Jungle Drums in the best I could. Man, the last week, some of the stuff that has came up. I mean, obviously last week on Jungle Drums, we talked about the new Battlefield. This was before the trailer reveal happened, of course, and we were speculating on whether it was going to be World War II, what it was going to feature. And so the trailer came out, obviously, and, it was cool, it was awesome. But the stuff on the internet, I mean, I don't want to get into it. I mean, no doubt you've seen it. But it's so frustrating, and it's so irritating as well, just to see how many idiots there are out there on the internet. Trying to play the whole historical accuracy card. Well, guess what? You might want to go read a book sometime, because there's plenty of strong, famous women when it comes to World War II. It just, and then even folk trying to go with the prosthetic stuff, and, prosthetics have been around for a very long time. But anyway, I don't want to get to it. It really just irritated the living hell out of me. But yeah, that's all the airtime I want to give that particular bit of information. Anyway, the new Battlefield does look pretty cool, and we'll definitely be keeping an eye out on that. Now, some other things that have been causing controversy has been, of course, the one game that we seem to talk about, not as regularly as we used to, but we did speak about it quite a bit in the past, and that, of course, is Destiny 2. Well, Destiny 2 is once again under fire. This is from Destiny News Hub, and this is about the new exotic emote is causing a controversy. Right, so Iron Banner had, came back out, and they're with it, there's all sorts of new weapons and armor and stuff that you can try to get, through their reward packages. But there's a new emote that's available for a limited time from the Eververse store. And it's causing a lot of drama because, A, it's quite expensive, and, of course, it's only available by using real money. There is no alternative path to get this emote. Now, of course, emotes, they're just a bit of fun. There's something cool, to give your character that little bit of flair. But this one, there's an Iron Emote bundle from Tess Everest in the tower, which gives you a Fireteam medallion, a Gleaming Boon of the Crucible, and an Iron Lord exotic emote. And, it is a pretty awesome looking emote. It does look really, really cool. If I, let's see, bring it up right here. Here we go. You come in and you've got the stuff. Yeah, it's, it is what it is, right? It's an emote within a video game. But, you're only able to get this emote by purchasing it with real money. And that's completely different to the way that everything else works in the game currently. The package itself costs about 1,100 silver, so that's about $10 US, I believe. And since you can't get that emote anywhere, some people are saying, well, okay, so it's effectively a $10 emote. And the Destiny 2 community as a whole is just, they're shocked because, the Eververse drama, I mean, that was months ago. And it seemed like Bungie was starting to regain the trust of the community by saying, yes, we realize, the way that we implemented Eververse has not been ideal, when they tried to kind of redeem themselves somewhat. And this just seems like, it's a huge deal because, we were on the verge of, a complete revolt about this, paid for content within the game, which they backtracked on, they kind of tried to rectify. And now we're just right back, where we started. Warmind, the latest DLC that coincides with Season 3 of Destiny 2, it's decent. I wouldn't say it's amazing. It definitely adds in, some more difficult activities like escalation protocol. The story's a little bit lackluster. But as a whole, it was a decent, small bit of DLC. I think most Destiny 2 fans are really looking ahead towards the actual expansion, which, of course, the way Destiny, the first one, did their code names, the expansion was called a Comet, and it would be a larger piece of content, usually having about the same amount of story missions and whatnot as the base game. For not quite full price of a game, but close to it. What, about half price, a little bit over half. So it's interesting to see how this is gonna go, because Season 3 is going to be bringing all sorts of other changes into the game down the road, which are all allegedly going to improve Destiny 2. But if this emote, is kind of the the sneak peek of what to expect, I just don't know. I don't know. I mean, we've had this debate about, DLC, microtransactions, loot boxes, many times in the past. A lot of games implement them really well. I mean, Rainbow Six Siege, you can unlock operators early, but for paying a price. There's cosmetic items that you can purchase. But then again, you can also earn all of these items. So the worry is, for the Destiny 2 community, a lot of the fans worry that for each new event that comes out, there's going to be, a piece of content like this that is behind a paywall. And it appeared that Bungie wasn't going to be doing that after, receiving so much criticism for doing it before. And I think it's just on a whole the story of Destiny 2, a game that had so much potential and that the community, fans expected so much from, and it's just fallen short. And if anything, they're going around in these circles. We've had a complete regression where they try to then get back to where we were, only to be stumbling along the way, doing a couple of things right, but then likewise taking multiple steps in the wrong direction. And it's a real shame to see. My friends, they've been playing a little bit of Destiny 2 over the last few weeks, and I just haven't. I've been busy as well, but when it comes time to sit down and play a game, Destiny 2 is nowhere near the top of my list at this point in time. I haven't hit maximum power level because now it's 385. My other characters, which I used to always do everything on all three of them, I haven't even done Curse of Osiris on my two other characters. And for someone who was a die-hard Destiny fan, come on, I've got my engrams right here. I've got merch. It's such a shame. But anyway, we'll have to see how Destiny 2 continues to develop and see if Bungie continues to make these silly mistakes. Right, now this is actually a headline that did occur last week. And it wasn't that I wasn't really paying much attention to it. It's just a case of being busy and looking at other things. And of course, this is about the brand new monitor that will be shipping on June 1st. So that's only a week away, isn't it? Just a week away. And that's the brand new Acer Predator. The Acer Predator X27 is a G-Sync 4K HDR display, which is going to set you back about $2,000 in US dollars. One thing that has been missing from the market at the moment when it comes to PC gaming is a 4K HDR monitors that have high refresh rates. And so this is one of the first panels. There are a couple other ones out there, but this is one of the first ones that is going to be 4K HDR and have relatively high refresh rates. But a little note on this, right? You look at the monitor, and okay, it looks pretty, the styling of it's quite nice. It's got these kind of anti-glare shields around, which, on the other hand, you could say, oh, hey, they're great for LANs as well, right? To kind of, so people can't see where you are. But, so for $2,000, basically, you're getting a 4K resolution display with a 4 millisecond response time. They claim up to 144 hertz refresh rate, which on a 4K panel, that is amazing, right? I mean, that's huge. But the native refresh rate is 120 hertz. And this is where it gets interesting, because if you're familiar with the way HDR works and color spaces, there's all these ways how they identify them, right? So basically, they've got the numbers that represent it, they have colons in between them. And so full HDR at the moment is 4:4:4, right? 444. Well, if you're playing in 4K HDR with that color space, the panel's only going to do 98 hertz. Whereas if you go to a 422, it'll jump up to 120. And if you overclock the monitor, again, keep in mind you do that at your own risk. I know it sounds crazy, right? Overclocking a monitor. But anyway, you can do it. Then it'll jump up to 144. So, yes, you can get that high refresh rate, but excuse me, your color space is going to suffer because of it. Now, it is a G-Sync monitor, so that's handy, right? Because then, if you're using an NVIDIA card, right, it'll basically, instead of like doing traditional vertical sync, they will actually sync up at the hardware level. So even when there's frame drops, you will get a much smoother type of gameplay. And let's be honest, for a 4K panel to be hitting 100 frames per second, or 120, you need some beefy hardware. And that's for absolutely sure. I think, 1080 Ti and above, right? Titan XP. Maybe if you're doing SLI, on lesser cards, it might be possible. But I mean, you really need some stonking hardware, so to speak. Another thing about it is, the display ports and whatnot on it, because you have to keep in mind, in order to use G-Sync, right, you're gonna have to be using a display port. Now they're using DisplayPort 1.4, and so that basically means that if you're using the 444 chroma subsampling, right, yes, you're gonna be limited to 98 hertz. Whereas if you're gonna be using HDMI, well, HDMI can only do 60 hertz anyway, and G-Sync, as far as I know, on HDMI 2.0, it doesn't function. You need to have a DisplayPort interface. But again, if you've got top-of-the-line hardware at the moment, then, you likely have that anyway. You're definitely going to need a GeForce GTX 10 series. And that being said, you're going to need, I think, maybe a 1070 Ti might be able to do it, but it's not going to have a very high frame rate unless you really, really lower quality settings. Regardless, it's nice to see 4K HDR panels hit the market. I'm of the opinion at the moment that the 2K, the 1440p HDR panels are the sweet spot at the moment. Yes, they're expensive-ish, but they're a far cry from $2,000, that's for sure. And, depending on the size, because we're talking about a 27-inch monitor here, 27 inches for 4K, 4K really benefits when you have a huge, huge panel. Was 27 inches, 2K, 1440p would probably be pretty darn good. So again, it's just something to think about, right? Yes, if you've got the money, you'll want to jump out and grab this because it's got HDR10 support. It's got pretty darn good contrast levels, 1,000 to 1. Its brightness has a native of 600 nits. It peaks at about 1,000. Yeah, I mean, it is nice, but just hold on to your money. Let's see how the market develops, because as more and newer technology comes out, prices will start to drop. We're seeing this at the moment, right? With video cards are actually starting to slowly come down in price. They're still higher than MSRP, but they are dropping slowly. What I like to do is put things on my Amazon wish list, and then it allows me to track the fluctuations in the price. And I've seen plenty of video cards out there that are definitely coming down, and hopefully when the 11 series card comes out July, August, with any luck we'll see 10 series cards plummet even more, hopefully. And I just hope that when the 11 series comes out they're not super overinflated, because I'm hoping to try to grab one myself. But yes, new Acer Predator. Of course, other companies will be coming out with their 4K HDR panels some point this year. The most difficult thing is supply of the actual, the panels themselves. Because remember, Acer and Asus, these companies, they don't make the panels. There's only a couple of select manufacturers worldwide that produce the actual panels that then they put into their monitors. So sometimes we have to wait quite a while for the manufacturing to keep up with the demand. Speaking of demand, back by popular demand is the Call of Taroth Siege in Monster Hunter World. I just snagged this from GameSpot, and of course this was from yesterday, so if you're watching this on Friday, this is today. Just last night, the Call of Taroth Siege returned. And if you missed this event last time around, especially if you're a solo player and you thought to yourself, hey, I can't do this, because the Call of Taroth Siege is designed for, a full gathering hub, right, where up to 16 people could all be doing this siege at the same time. Only 4 people at a time in an instance, but the efforts of all 16 people, 4 groups of 4, are actually making progress towards the end goal. I did it several times solo. Yes, it was a bit of a grind, it did take a while, but then when you add in another person to the mix, so me and my buddy Gim, right, we duoed it, just the 2 of us, in the same instance, several times, got all the rewards we wanted. I mean, I got full armor, got my Palico all hooked up. The way the weapons work is random, right? You end up, you'll have to do multiple runs, and even then, there's no guarantee you'll get the weapon you want. I never got a single longsword, which I'm unhappy about. I'd like to try to get one of those, but I did get all sorts of other stuff. Bows, bow guns, got a charge blade or 2, but I didn't get a rarity 8 one, and I'm hoping to rectify that. The weapons are pretty awesome. They've got a lovely kind of gold shine to them, and most of the models are all based off previous weapons. Sort of look familiar, but they've got this gold skin to them, and then the armor set itself is also really, really quite good. You need to make sure that you're hunter rank 16 in order to take part, so basically that means finishing the main story. But they've put out their little teaser gif again. As you can see, Call of Taroth was just an amazing beast, and the encounter itself was just really, really fun. It was really neat the way that they kind of gated it, the way it all works out, where you go in, you'll only get to certain points, then you have to go back in again, maybe you'll get a little bit further, and then as you progress, the research level goes up, the reward level goes up, and then finally when you get to that point where your reward level and your research level are high enough, then you can say, right, let's go ahead and kill this wonderful golden monster. But of course, as you know, if you have played it, you don't actually get to kill it, and that's all I'll say. But yes, it's back in the game. Call of Taroth will be sticking around till May 31st. And there's still no word whether she's going to become a permanent monster in the game like Deviljho. But, if you do get to fight her and, have a modicum of success, you'll unlock the 2 high-rank sets of armor, the Palico armor, and then, of course, you have the chances of getting the weapons. But definitely, if you haven't checked out Monster Hunter World in a while, and you've missed out on that Call of Taroth Siege the last time, jump right back in, because it is. I'll definitely be, well, if I get any free time this weekend, I'll be trying my best to get in there and get cracking on some of that. Excuse me, sip of coffee. Right. Another piece of tech news that came across my desk. I found this quite interesting. I sourced this from Tech Radar, and this is about Ubisoft. And Ubisoft's AI assistant will up your game with real-time play analysis. Right? So that headline on its own kind of grabbed my attention. Now, the AI assistant, of course, is nothing new. Hello, Alexa, Siri, right? These types of technologies have been in existence for quite some time. Usually we see them in smart speakers, and yeah, just about any other gadget you have in your house. But Ubisoft has thrown their hat into the ring, so to speak, where they have now got a personalized chatbot to enhance your gaming experience. So it's quite interesting when you read the article, right? It talks about how this was inspired by a one-off hackathon with Ubisoft employees. The chatbot saw a soft launch back in January in Canada, but now it is available worldwide to anyone with the Ubisoft Club mobile app. It's named Sam, and the AI can log your progress in any number of Ubisoft games, relaying in-game stats, in real time, or offering tips and hints for progressing through difficult sections. It could even update you on the weather or similar, dynamic systems in game, basically acting as a virtual Alexa for your avatar. So again, the way the article kind of frames it says that it seems to be part of a wider strategy by Ubisoft to shift its focus away from its annual release model and towards improving player services. We've seen how they've done this with Rainbow Six Siege. We see how they've done this with For Honor, where they've been focusing on just trying to improve the systems within those games. Now, yes, Ubisoft, this chatbot is only going to work if you're playing Ubisoft games, obviously. So things like Assassin's Creed Origins, Far Cry 5, For Honor, and even Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Sam could end up proving an invaluable assistant for when you're progressing through the game. But whether or not this chatbot is going to be helpful or just a pain in the ass, well, it's us, the gamers. We're going to have to decide how we feel. Admittedly, I have not given this a try yet, but I am curious. I'm just trying to think of what, these newer games. Because I don't have Origins yet. I don't have Far Cry 5. I'll have to have a look and see if it's going to work with any of the older games. I highly doubt it. I'm thinking it's probably going to be from a certain date onwards, but I'll double check. Could be quite neat. I still got to finish Assassin's Creed Syndicate before I can allow myself to purchase Origins. It's just the way I roll with games. It's the same really with Far Cry 5. I really want to get it, really want to play it, but admittedly, I just never really gave Far Cry 4 the attention it deserves. I got kind of burnt out with the Far Cries. And it's a shame. Series that I love, I just, slowly over time lost interest. But we'll have to see. Hey, if you're going to try out the chatbot, then, pop by the Scholar Gamers Discord. Let us know how you got on with it. It'd be quite interesting to see or hear what people think of it. Now, E3 is it's not that far away. And there's a lot of cool stuff that, people are looking forward to. And the big one for me is, of course, even so it's a game that I don't even own, the system that it's kind of aiming for, is Death Stranding, right? I can't wait. I want more information. Death Stranding just looks like it's going to be amazing. But at the same time, it is kind of confusing because we don't know what the hell really it's about. So I found this article on Game Rant, and it was the headline basically stating that Death Stranding gameplay involves player collaboration. So Yeah, the PS4 exclusive Death Stranding is, and I know I try not to get hyped for things, but this game, I just can't help it. It looks fantastic. I mean, who doesn't like anything that Hideo Kojima has been a part of? He's just an amazing, amazing person. And so Mads Mikkelsen, who, funnily enough, is another actor I absolutely love. If you haven't watched the Hannibal series, you're just doing yourself a disservice. And also, what was the name of that film? It was a film, it was like a Western type of thing, where he plays like a Dutch... anyway, you probably know what I'm talking about. Decent film. But yeah, now Mads, absolute mad lad. But anyway, he just recently had an interview with Total Film magazine. And Mads basically, he alluded to Death Stranding having a heavy focus on multiplayer elements that aim to, to connect its player base in a very unique way. So this sounds really, really interesting. Now, we know with, the last Metal Gear, there was a bit of multiplayer aspect, with the bases and this, that, and this. But to quote directly what Mads Mikkelsen said, he said, "The whole concept of playing the game, as I understand, needs collaboration from different people from different parts of the world, which is also another level of fantasticness." And, so it does. It's it's quite interesting, how you interpret this, I suppose, is up to you. I mean, are we talking about, are certain parts of the game going to revolve around players having to band together to fight enemies? Is it like, certain parts of the story are almost like a raid where there's no way of doing it on your own? Or is there, possible region-specific things that are going to be occurring? Items, maybe, that you need to progress, that the only way to get them is if, Team EU does something. It's quite interesting because it's also, there was a quote from Norman Reedus, obviously as a co-star in the game as well, where he's quoted as saying that Death Stranding apparently has elements of social media in it. So if you take all of these kind of ideas, I suppose if we just take them at face value, how do we interpret these? What does it mean? What is the whole concept of Death Stranding? Gameplay related to player collaboration, has been done before, but let's be honest, when Hideo Kojima does something, very rarely is it something that people have done before, right? It's usually got a new spin on it. It's usually quite unique. And I mean, even the quote, the man himself, Kojima, the story is about connections, what you call strands in psychology, how people are connected. So, we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, admittedly, most of the team working on Death Stranding didn't actually comprehend fully what Kojima was going for. So it's very possible that Mads Mikkelsen is still somewhat in the dark regarding the gameplay mechanics. Because it was just a year ago where he stated, "I don't understand the story." To quote Mads Mikkelsen, the plot was so elaborate that I got lost. But now, a year later, there's more chance of him understanding what's going on. I mean, you have to keep in mind with actors, they go in, they do their motion cap, they do their voice capture and whatnot, and you'd think that, surely they must know the narrative of the story then, right? Well, it depends. If you only do limited scripting, like, okay, come in and you're doing this part, and then not necessarily in order, it can be very difficult. Can you imagine if you had, say, the Lord of the Rings, let's just take the first book, Fellowship of the Ring, and I was to take all the pages of it, take the numbers off the pages, rip all the pages out the book, and then give you them one by one in random, a random order. Do you think you would have a full grasp of the storyline, or would it take quite a bit of work to try to understand what was going on. So I think, this conception of, oh, hey, he's an actor in the game, he's got to know everything about it. It just simply isn't true. I mean, especially the way with a video game, how you can segment your voice capture and your motion capture into very tiny segments. At least with an actor in a film or a TV series like Game of Thrones, yes, if you're filming an entire scene, there's a good chance that oh crap, hell, that's this is what's happening, because you've also got the dialogue of the other characters, other cast members. But again, in a video game, you can do all this stuff on your own, and be segmented or siloed from the rest of the cast. But either way, I can't wait to see what E3 has in store for us when it comes to Death Stranding. Right, one more story, and this is there's a good chance that this has went under a lot of people's radar, and I'm really interested to see where the heck this is going to go. Now, I'd found this from our friends over at WCCF Tech, and it's to do with EA, Electronic Arts. And so the headline is that Electronic Arts acquires cloud gaming technology assets and personnel of Gamefly's subsidiary. Right, so that headline might not make that much sense to you. Why have I got some kind of crazy pop-up here? Hold on. Right, so Electronic Arts just this week announced the acquisition of Gamefly's wholly owned subsidiary cloud gaming technology assets and their personnel. Now, so interestingly enough, this team is based out of Israel. And so now they will join EA's central technology organization responsible for developing and operating the platform that powers Electronic Arts games and services. And so who's this? Ken Moss, the CTO, Chief Technology Officer of Electronic Arts, said, "Cloud gaming is an exciting frontier that will help us to give even more players the ability to experience games on any device from anywhere. We're thrilled to bring this talented team's expertise into Electronic Arts as we continue to innovate and expand the future of games and play." Cloud computing is huge, right? Amazon Web Services is cloud computing. Microsoft Azure is cloud computing. I did a whole module this year on cloud computing, and it's amazing technology, and we're already seeing somewhat of a shift to it, with more and more services being offered now where you don't have to own a high-end gaming rig. You can connect remotely to a cloud-based service where you're actually playing remotely on a badass gaming PC or a highly spec'd server. And so it's quite interesting. This acquisition by EA is, it really opens up the possibilities to expand the reach of games via streaming to more players, because for PC gaming, it has become quite apparent, especially the way the hardware prices have went up. It hasn't just been video cards, it's been RAM, it's been power supplies, just everything has, climbed drastically. And this is what makes these kind of cloud services even more appetizing to developers, going like, wait a minute, what if, we offer a service where you want to play, the newest Battlefield? Guess what? You don't need a badass PC that costs you $2,000. All you need is, and then insert device, cheap tablet or mobile phone or, your mom's laptop, computer that is, and the ability to play these games remotely, via the cloud. Game devs, they're starting to see this, that, wait a minute, because of the hardware prices, it's becoming a barrier to their audience, or those of us who do have PCs, but maybe we just can't afford to upgrade them. And when a new game comes out and it's super demanding, like, I'm just have to give that one a miss because I don't have the hardware to play it successfully. So, it's quite interesting. Gamefly, Gamefly was well known, if you're near tech at least, their streaming service allowed you to play games directly on smart TVs, so like Amazon Fire, the Samsung smart TVs, LG smart TVs, Philips, and basically all you needed was if you had a smart TV and a game controller, whether that was a Microsoft Xbox 360 one or a DualShock 4, and you needed decent internet bandwidth, at least 5 megabits a second, but 10 or higher, of course, gives you a better experience. It worked. It worked okay. It was decent. I don't think many people really hopped on the bandwagon, because let's be honest, I think the people that it would appeal to, they already had the necessary hardware to kind of play games. But it is really, really neat. Just imagine that. Can you imagine if these big devs, especially like Electronic Arts, gets to that point where, hey, you don't even need a console. You don't need a console. You don't need a PC. All you need is a TV and a controller, and you'll be able to play games thanks to cloud computing. It might sound a bit silly. It might sound a bit far-fetched, but we've already been there, kind of. Not, through a smart TV, the performance is meh. But these remote kind of boxes that we've talked about in the past, where you just need this little client unit, but it doesn't really do the work. All the client unit is responsible for is maintaining a connection with the actual remote hardware that is doing all of the work. It's really, really interesting. I really do like having my own physical PC, but I can see the pull or the appeal of basically, with cloud computing, you pay your fee, your service fee or whatever, and you would always have access to the latest and greatest hardware. Could be interesting. Whether or not other companies are going to be doing similar things or not, we'll just have to wait and see. But EA, acquiring GameFly, could mean for some interesting developments later down the line. We'll just have to wait and see. Well, folks, that is going to do it for this week's Jungle Drums. Yep, what we've got run up to E3. No doubt we'll do an E3 special that week. We'll just have to see. We might actually, we might a week before do what we're hoping to see, expectations and whatnot as well, possibly. So I'll just leave next week. Is that right? Next week? Yeah, next week we'll try to find, see if there's any news. Again, we got things coming up, Computex and whatnot, so we're kind of mum's the word on a lot of the hardware news at the moment. And it's the same with the gaming news. We're at that point where, yes, we're getting these tiny little teasers pre-E3, but it should be E3, and then, of course, later in the year, Gamescom, where we'll get more information. So, there is news out there. It's just a case of trying to filter through some of the crap and, some of the more kind of interesting pieces. But we'll see. We'll try to find something for next week. In the meantime, make sure to check out scholarlygamers.com. There's always plenty of stuff to read through, whether it's reviews, whether it's features, video content as well. Of course, the latest episode of Streaming Fundamentals dropped this week. I believe we should have an episode of Armchair Gaming coming to you next week, I do believe, if the schedule's correct. Plenty of stuff happening. As always, use the hashtag ScholarlyGamers. Look on Twitch. Plenty of Scholarly Gamers that are going to be streaming over the weekend. Make sure to drop in, toss them a follow. And, we will catch you next week. Hopefully, my schedule will be a lot lighter and we'll be able to actually have guests on once again. Anyway, take it easy. Have a good weekend. I'll catch you next time.